so happy that you joined us. This is an online community that meets every week to worship and hear a message from one of our pastors. We're going to get started soon, but here are a couple things that we wanted to let you know about first. If you'd like to get connected with us or stay up to date on what's happening around here by joining our mailing list, just head over to our website to sign up for that at lgcy.church. Simply put, giving a tithe means giving a tenth. The Bible gives us countless examples of the principles of giving, as well as countless reminders of why we give. We give as an act of obedience, but it also acknowledges that everything we have first came from our God. And when you have that truth at the core of your giving, it becomes a joy to give back to Him. To complete your giving online today, visit lgcy.church/give.
God is doing something special. You say, well, how do you know that? Because it's been a struggle. It's interesting that when God starts to move and when things start to happen and when strongholds start to break and when things start to take place in people's lives, how instantly the devil tries to come on the scene and discourage you. And so I know God is doing something special across Legacy Church as a whole. And so today I want to just remind us that over the last few months we've been talking about the topic of faith. We just finished our series called Trust Fund, where we went, I don't know, was it 9 weeks? We did 9 weeks, which I believe to this point is the single longest series we have done as a church, as your lead pastors over the last 4.5 years. But we also, before that, we walked through our Legacy Faith series, and we kind of broke down what Legacy Faith was. Week 2, we got to talk about baby faith. We talked about maybe faith, talked about waiting faith. We talked about lazy faith, and then we ended with stating faith. And so through 9 weeks of our Trust Fund series and trusting in God, which is faith, and then we ended kind of this whole season around our Legacy Faith offering, and we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. But how many know where you can hear all the stories, you can go through all the scripture, you can see what people went through, and you can be on that side of like, God, I'm standing in Legacy Faith. I've been so encouraged. I've heard all the stories, and now my faith is at an all-time high. There's always a group of people who are willing to dive in head first. But in the process, we can't all say that we're all at that level. Not everyone is always at that same season, in that same moment, and we've heard story after story. We've heard testimony. Throughout all of these series, we've heard testimonies and stories of what God has been doing, not just in our lives, but in lives of those who believe around the world. So we've seen what He's done in other people, through their lives, through their testimony. You say, well, I haven't seen it done in my life. I've heard, I've seen, but God, I haven't seen it in my life. God, did you hear me? God, were you listening? God, do you even care? I'm sure we've all at some point been in a position and we've been in a place where it's like, God, are you listening? God, do you care? I've been praying. I've been fasting. I've been believing. I've sown sacrificial seeds. God, are you there? Why is it happening for others? And I haven't seen it yet in my life. And because we haven't seen it in our lives, we start to change our theology to fit our situation. rather than submitting that to God. So today, I just want to spend the next few moments, very briefly, in giving us a bonus week of our Legacy Faith series, week 8, and I want to title this today, Doubting Faith. We've sacrificially given during the Legacy Faith offering. We've believed for healing. And you say, yet I'm in the same place that I was then. Prayer after prayer, fasting. I fasted for a week and I felt like nothing happened. And so we're all still waiting. God, will you do something in my life? And so because we're in a place where nothing has happened, we're starting to get doubting faith. And our trust in when we believe in him starts to fade away. Where once you trusted him to provide, you're now trying to make a way. Trying to figure out how to make it. Trying to figure out how to get to the next week. Where you once believed in miracles. And you believed that miracles were for today. You no longer think miracles can happen, especially for you. Where you once had legacy faith, you now have doubting faith. The weight of life and the world that we are living in has been crushing you. The pain of the past has tried to tell you that you're not worth it. Maybe you've been in a situation where you've tried every treatment. You've gone to every doctor. You've done everything that you were supposed to do. You've changed your diet. You've sown seeds and given in faith. You've done fertility treatments. You've watched other people's kids in faith, that someday I will have a child of my own. And where we once had legacy faith, we now have doubting faith. There are things that happen to us in our life that will challenge the way that we believe. Can I tell you something from one person to another? There are things that happen in my life that challenge the way I believe. You say, well, you're supposed to have great faith as a pastor. You're supposed to lead by example. There have been things in my life that have challenged the things that I read about and the things that I believe. There are moments where I don't feel like he's my healer. There are moments where I don't feel like he's my provider. There are moments where I doubt. God, did you really call me? God, is this where I'm supposed to be? Grinding it out week after week. Feeling like nobody cares. Feeling like nobody listens. And so legacy faith can turn into doubting faith because we've either experienced loss or we've experienced a challenge. Some of you have experienced loss in this last season, whether it be the loss of a relationship, whether it be the loss of finances, or just something kept on coming up. You're just trying to get ahead this month. Something else comes up. Car breaks down, flat tire. Maybe you've experienced a loss of some kind. Maybe you've experienced a loss of time in this last season. Maybe you've experienced the loss of relationships over the last number of years. You said, I thought this person was supposed to be by my side. Through the challenge, through the pain, they were nowhere to be found. Maybe you feel like this today. Maybe that's you. I have moments where I feel like that. And I can just be honest. Maybe you felt like giving up recently. And yet you still have faith even though it's starting to fade away. So I want to look in John 20 today. Because I begin to ask, how are we supposed to respond when what we're believing for hasn't happened yet? If we're looking in John 20, and just for context, Jesus has just been crucified. And he's been put in the tomb in this moment. And so 3 days go by and Mary goes by the tomb. She sees that he's not there any longer. And Jesus appears to Mary shortly after this moment and tells him that something is going to happen. But no one else really knows what's going on. And so we pick it up in verse 19. It says, that Sunday evening, the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. In other words, they were afraid because they were associated with Jesus. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. And he says, peace be with you. And as he spoke, he showed them the wounds in his hand and the wounds in his side. And they were filled with joy when they saw the Lord. For some of us, maybe that's us standing in a locked room. God, I don't know where you are. You're gone. I don't know if you're in my situation. But he was standing in the middle. Come on, if we just put him in our situation, if we just invited him into the room in those moments, I guarantee you that joy would come back to your situation. That joy would come back to whatever you're walking through. If you would just invite him into the room. He said, peace be with you. And as he spoke, he showed them the wounds in his hand and his side. And they were all filled with joy when they saw the Lord. And again he said, peace be with you. They were overjoyed to see him. They thought he was dead. Can you imagine their leader been crucified, died, was placed in a tomb? They were overjoyed. And they had legacy faith in that moment because they got to see a miracle. Because they got to touch a miracle. Because they got to be in a room with a miracle. And their leader is standing in front of them that they thought they lost. And in this moment, he comes and he meets them in the middle of their situation. And they were all excited because God showed up for them. Has he ever showed up for you? Come on, I know there's a lot of people in here that have been through some hard situations, and God showed up for you. Maybe it was the way you weren't expecting, but he still showed up for you. He still provided. He brought healing. He brought life change. He showed up for you. Let us not forget what he has done. When you're going through it, when you're in the middle of the storm, let us not forget what he did back there. Because if he did it back there, he'll do it right here. See, it's amazing when he shows up in your situation. It's awesome when he shows up in someone else's life. But maybe he hasn't shown up in yours yet. Maybe you missed that moment. Or you thought you missed that moment. What if he showed up last Sunday and you knew you were supposed to be here in this room? And maybe you heard a story. Man, God moved. Lives changed. People got healed. Strongholds were broken. Where were you? Have you ever felt like that? Where you felt like you've missed something? In fact, that's our entire world. That's where FOMO comes from, fear of missing out. There are moments where we have a fear, what if I miss out? The problem is we don't have a fear of what God is missing out, of what God is going to do in the church. We have a fear of missing out. Well, I need to go take my kids to this place on this Sunday. That's more important to me. We encourage you to come every week. I want to show you in verse 24. It says, one of the 12 disciples, his name was Thomas. His nickname was the Twin. We're not talking about Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. We're talking about Thomas. I dated myself. See, Thomas in this moment, he didn't get to experience this miracle. He wasn't there in this moment. It says he was not with the others when Jesus came. He wasn't there. We don't know why he wasn't there. Maybe he was out getting Big Macs for the boys because they were hungry. We don't know why Thomas wasn't there. But because he wasn't there in that moment, he missed out. And he comes back and they're all excited and they're all overjoyed. We just saw Jesus. He stood in the middle of this room. We saw him. We got to touch him. We got to experience a miracle. Can I tell you something? Sometimes life just happens. We see what happens for one. We feel like we miss a moment. And where we had legacy faith because we heard about what happened, because people are telling us about what happened. We felt like we missed the moment, and so our legacy faith dwindles into doubting faith. I can guarantee you that if you're in the room today, there are going to be people that are going to be upset that they missed what God did today. I can guarantee it. See, everyone around Thomas was excited. They had just touched the miracle that was Jesus. Throughout this legacy faith story, and I hope this person is okay with me sharing this. When we took up our legacy faith offering, there was a person that attends this church. They told me a couple weeks later, they said, if you're wondering why there was two amounts in the offering, it's because we felt like during the service that we were supposed to clear out our savings account. Just felt that pressing from God, and we had to be obedient in that moment. And so this person told me this, and they said, Pastor Matt, you wouldn't believe. This past week, when they told me this story, this past week, my work came to me, and they said they were gonna give me a raise. But they're not only gonna give me a raise, they're gonna prorate that raise back to April of 2022. So Pastor Matt, could I tell you that because of my obedience, because of my stepping out in faith and making this sacrifice of clearing out my savings account, the amount of money that I just received from my job was exactly 4 times the amount that I cleared out of my savings account. Come on, God did it. He did it. But we can hear stories like that, and we can say, that's amazing, but I haven't seen it. That's awesome. I'm excited for you. God, what about me? God, I've been praying. God, I've been believing. God, I've stretched out my faith. Thomas heard the excitement of his friends, but he couldn't believe it because he didn't experience it for himself. Verse 25, they told him, we have seen the Lord. But he replied, I won't believe it unless I see the nail wounds in his hands unless I put my finger in them. Come on, he's like really like, I'm gonna stick my finger in there just to prove. And place my hands into the wound in his side. In other words, Thomas is like, I'm not gonna believe unless he does it for me. Some of you might be here today and say, that's awesome that he did it for that person. But I'm not gonna believe it until I see it for myself. Until I'm in the room with the miracle. Can I tell you something? God is not detoured by your doubt. Thomas heard about the miracle that everyone else saw. We live in a world where we doubt everything unless we see it or experience it for ourselves. There's a point now where we can't even watch a video and know if it's real or fake. What's so interesting is that they called him Doubting Thomas. Now, they didn't give him a descriptor based on who he was. They gave him a descriptor based on the season that he was in. I think we've all been in that season. We could say, there he is, doubting Phil, doubting Nate, doubting Linda, doubting Elsa. We've all been doubting at some point. Some of us feel like this is who we are. Doubting in the middle of the situation. Doubting in the middle of the storm. The thing was, Thomas wasn't always doubting. You can go home and read John 11. That's your homework. He wasn't always doubting. It was a season that he was in. But continuing on, because 3 things happened for Thomas in this season of doubting that I want to pull out. 26 through 28. 8 days later, come on, time had passed. God, where are you? 8 days has passed. 8 years has passed. 8 months has passed. God, where are you? 8 days later, the disciples were together again. They were eating Big Macs again, but this time Thomas was with them. He said, I'm gonna be in the room. The doors were locked again. But suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. Peace be with you. In other words, he rewound the whole situation and did it all over again. He said, peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, he said, put your finger here. See these hands? Is this what you're looking for? Here they are. Put your finger here. Look at my hands. Put your finger, or put your hand in this wound. Put your hand in my side. Then he says, don't be faithless any longer. Believe. He said, my Lord, my God, Thomas exclaimed. God redid everything in that moment to prove to Thomas that what they saw was real. He didn't do it again for everybody else. He did it again for Thomas. When God wants to heal doubting faith, He'll rewind the situation and He'll do it again just to prove that He is God. When God wanted to heal doubting faith, God would do something tangible. He said, touch my hands. You want to put your finger in the hole? Stick it in there. He needed to do something tangible for someone who was in a season of doubting. God wants to do something visual. He said, look at my hands. Touch my hands. Look at my hands. But then God will always do something in this moment of doubting faith. He will do something personal. You want to put your hand in my side? Can't get more personal than that. Why don't you come and put your hand in that wound? Put your hand in my side. God wants to do something tangible. He wants to do something visual, and he wants to do something personal. The reason he did this wasn't to answer the request of Thomas. The reason he did this was to get him to stop doubting. He met his physical need to bring back alive his belief and his faith. To build back his faith that was in doubt. I love verse 27. He said, don't be faithless any longer. I would challenge you today. Don't be faithless any longer. Because God's about to do something tangible. He's about to do something visible. And he's about to do something personal. Don't be faithless, church. Wake up. Wake up. Don't live in a season of doubt. He wants to show you, but you must open your eyes and believe. It was in this moment that when he touched him, when it became tangible, it was in this moment that when he saw his hands, it was in this moment that when he asked him to do something personal, that Thomas believed. What if someone came and met your need right now? Would you believe? What if someone came and provided that thing that you've been believing for your family, so that that weight and that pressure that has been on you can go? Would you believe? What if God healed you of that miracle right now that you've been praying for? The reason God does it, he wants to do something tangible, visible, and personal for people to believe that it's him. That it's him. What happens when God does something for someone else? When we have the right heart, when we have the right mindset, that person gets to share what God did. This is where I was, but this is what God did. I love that from a testimony I even heard yesterday of someone who got baptized. He said, my life has changed because of someone I know was healed of cancer. Maybe it doesn't always happen around you. Maybe it doesn't always happen for you. But can you give God the glory when he does a miracle? He does things so people will believe. If he did it for them, then what is cancer to him? If he provided, if he brought a miracle, then what is providing a place for your family that is adequate enough to live in? If he did it for them, what is providing a safe mode of transportation so you don't feel scared to load your newborn into the car? If he did it for them, he can do it for me. He does it so it can be believable. He does it so that he gets the glory. For God to build faith, he will do something tangible, visible, and personal. Can I tell you, church, that that's what this legacy faith offering was about from the beginning? I can tell you for a fact that the money that came in, we could have used every bit of it for ourselves. You can ask Simon. Simon's on the finance team. The finance team would have been happy to hold on to all of it. Because there's always something that we can do. But that was never the point. The point was to do something tangible, visible, and personal. How many know that seeds need to be planted? Seeds have to be planted. It's interesting because as a team, we can look at that amount, the four of us that are on the team, we can look at that amount and we can say, man, we could do so much. But you know what? I looked at the team and I said, you know what? We can give so much. So I'm excited today. I know we've been waiting on a while for this, but I'm excited today to announce that the one-day total that came in for the Legacy Faith offering across both locations was $54,451.41. Come on, church, God did that. I don't think you get it. That wasn't a pledge. That wasn't like I'm paying this. That was one day. One day. To give you the breakdown, in Kitchener, it was $18,974.58. Thank God for the person who gave that 58 cents. I believe for a great miracle. In Hamilton, you guys generously gave $35,476.83. We may not be large, but you are generous and you are mighty. Well, that's great, Pastor Matt, but what are we doing now? Building campaign, what are we gonna do? I can tell you something, 54,000 is not enough to meet the vision of this house. I can tell you right now. And if it's not enough to meet the need, it's a seed. God wants to do something today tangible, visible, and personal. John 3:16, 1 John 3:16. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with action and with truth. Matthew 10:8, freely you have received and freely we give. It's always been the heart of this house that we were a house that was blessed to be a blessing. We may not have millions coming in, but we have thousands coming in. And if we don't start with the thousands, the millions will never come. But when the millions come, it doesn't just mean that we do more and more and more around us. It means that we give more and more and more and more into our cities and our communities and those in need. There's a blueprint given in Acts 1 that lays out the where and the how. Acts 1:8 says, ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all of Judea and in Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth. If you don't know what that means, the city of Jerusalem was where they were, their community that they lived in, their neighborhood that they were in. The familiar region of Judea was the area around them. It would be considered like Ontario for us. Then geographically further and culturally different when the region of Samaria, it'd be like Canada of sorts. But then it says to go to all the ends of the earth. So we must give in our own community. And then we must give in all of Ontario. And then we must give into Canada. And then we must give to the ends of the earth. So as we were praying about this and as we were meeting about this, there was an organization that popped up they have a location in both cities, in both Kitchener and Hamilton, and that organization is called Food for Kids. And if you know anything about this house, is we believe in the next generation. We want to love and support the next generation however we can. We can't do it all as a church. We're not a big church. We do everything in our ability to do. But there are people out there like Food for Kids, Hamilton, that are going above and beyond what we can do on our own. So Food for Kids, Hamilton and Kitchener, they provide essential services for local children experiencing chronic hunger. They deliver nutritious food packages directly to at-risk, to vulnerable children when they are not in school and when they need help the most. It is estimated that In our communities, there are over 3,000 children that don't have access to proper nourishment they need to thrive in their life. Now, we understand that schools have nutrition programs and those things help and those things are great. But what about the moments that they don't have access to that, like summer? What about the moments that they don't have access to these things? Maybe they have a single parent at home or parents at home that just can't provide in the way that they need to. So, Legacy Church, I'm so excited to announce today that we are sending $2,500 to Food for Kids Hamilton to provide. Come on, let's give God the glory. Come on, you can do better than that. And Kitchener has matched that. So Food for Kids, Kitchener-Waterloo is also giving $2,500. And so we begin to think and pray, how can we build over this next season? How can we love and support what God is doing all throughout Ontario and all throughout Canada in this next season? I believe that Canada is about to experience revival. And we want to support, and we want to be, as a church, we want to get behind what God is doing. And so there's an organization called ARC Canada, which stands for Association of Related Churches. And what ARC does is they support new church plants that are being planted all around our country. We actually know a number of churches around us, and we're friends with some people that were a part of an ARC church plant years ago in Kitchener. We actually have friends in Ontario that were part of a church plant. And so we thought, how much of a blessing could we be, not just to an individual church, but how much of a blessing could we be to the church across Canada? If we sowed a seed, it might not be much, but it's a seed that will produce a great harvest beyond what we could have done on our own. And so Legacy Church, I'm excited to announce that as a church, above and beyond even the Legacy Faith offering, we as a church are sending $5,000 to plant churches all throughout Canada. Come on, God did it. Because of your faithfulness, because of your obedience, God did it. The vision of our church is this, and I just want you to know this. It says we exist to see a thriving church in every community, reaching people with the message of Jesus. Their mission, we help new and existing churches thrive by providing leaders with relationships, resources, and opportunities. I have a lot of the friendships that I have today because of ARC. We're not a part of ARC, but we're invited into that community to have those relationships that it's talking about. And I can tell you that ARC is doing something amazing across the nation of Canada. Now, what about the ends of the earth? How can we help the ends of the earth? Well, if you know our Kitchener location, which used to be called New Song Church, they've always had a heart for missions. They've always had a heart to reach the globe. And that's always been our heart as well. And there's a pastor that has come into Kitchener over the years. His name is Bishop Ken Camus. And he pastors an amazing church over in Nairobi, Kenya. God is moving and the church is growing. I think we have a picture there of the church that is growing. They're at capacity in their building. And they've been believing God for the first phase. They're building a new building. They've been believing God for just $1 million. It's just a small amount. I mean, you can't even build a house in Ontario for $1 million. They're believing for $1 million. There's pictures of the building that they're building right now. So they've been believing God for $1 million to come in for the first phase of their building project. And the church that they pastor is called Revival Sanctuary of Glory Church. Come on, we need some more descriptors in there. Come on, it's the Revival Sanctuary of Glory Church. I don't know that would thrive in Ontario, but it's thriving there. And so above and beyond our Legacy Faith Offering, this isn't coming from Legacy Faith Offering. This is coming from the house. And I'm excited to announce today that above our Legacy Faith Offering, Legacy Church, we are sending $30,000 to build the church in Nairobi, Kenya. Yes, come on. Come on, God is doing it. Come on. That is above anything that came in. So we as a church are sowing beyond ourselves. I want you to know that we've sent $5,000 to this point. We wanted to do a test because obviously getting money in that direction becomes a little difficult sometimes. Acts 20 verse 35, in everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work, we must help the weak. Remembering in the words of the Lord Jesus himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. As you know, we have a ministry in our house called City Care. And City Care over this last 4 years has provided needs all throughout our city, all throughout our community, all throughout. And if you've ever been a part, which I would encourage you to do whatever it takes, not just to be a part as an individual, but be a part as a family. Because it'll drastically change the way that you view your situation, which you think is big. It'll make it real small, real fast. When you go out there and you're on this side property over here and you're serving and loving those in our community, you begin to realize real quick the problems that you have aren't that big at all. And we are excited that because of your Legacy Faith Offering, because of your obedience, because of your faithfulness, that we're gonna fully fund City Care. There's not gonna be any fundraisers. I don't believe in fundraisers. I believe that our God is big enough that he'll provide everything that we need. He'll provide it. We don't have to do a fundraiser. We don't have to do a spaghetti dinner. We don't have to sell lemonade on the corner. Our God is a good God. He will provide everything that we need. So you say, what does that mean, fully funded? Well, we're gonna start with a budget of $10,000 and then we're gonna go from there. Because our God is a good God. He's either our provider or he's not. And he is our provider. Now, here's what I want you to understand, because sometimes you don't get to see faces. You don't get to see the people. And so I want a couple stand-ins today, because I want you to see the faces of Legacy Church. I want you to see that there are people behind these organizations that we give in. I'm gonna ask Phil if you'd come up and stand with me. I don't know if your wife's here, if she could come up. If you could come up, Phil. Lino, could you come up, actually? And actually, yeah, I want Mackenzie as well. I want your family. Is your family here, Phil? Are they here somewhere? If they could come out, that'd be great. Even your kids. You can come up, Lino. Is Jen here? Yeah, Jen Chavez. Yeah, Jen, you're there. No, you. Yeah, come on up. Denise, why don't you come up? Because what I want you to see is, I want you to see that when we're giving into organizations, that there's faces attached to that. But not only are there faces attached to that this is a representation of what this house looks like. We've got families. We've got moms. We've got grandmoms. We've got parents. And this is what it means to see these faces, not just organizations, but there's faces of people on the other side that are being blessed because of our generosity. And I want you to understand that when we're giving to organizations, that it's affecting people. But how many remember that God always wants to do something tangible He wants to do something visible, and he wants to do something personal. As I was going through these Legacy Faith envelopes, I was just believing God, what can we do? God, how can we be a blessing? God, what can we do? And I came across this one envelope, and it says, an increase for finances for me, my children, and an increase in souls added to our Legacy family. That was from Denise. And man, that just hit me so much, because I think about Pete. It was his birthday on Friday. If you don't know Pete, it's been a while since he went to heaven. 6 years. But Pete was, man, you needed to get around Pete if you were stuck in a worship slump. Pete would shout you down. Man, he'd get you out of that worship slump. So Denise, here's what I want to do today from Legacy Church, if you would open that up for me. Because you are believing for increase for yourself, for your family. And so Denise, from Legacy Church, we want to sow a $1,000 seed into your life just to help you. I don't know what situations are going on. I don't know where you stand financially, but we want to bless you and tell you that we love you and that we're here for you and that we care for you. Come on, church. Now, I was thinking about this and I was reading through. And I was reading through these envelopes. And one that struck me. Thank you. One that struck me. It just said family blessings. And then there was a little note at the bottom that said she gave it into the kids' offering. And I don't normally say what people gave, but I believe that she gave sacrificially $2.55. And you, Mackenzie, you were standing for family blessing, weren't you? Well, I want to show you something, because I want you, let me find it. I want you to open that up, because you're going to have mom and dad help you. You trust mom and dad, right? Because of your faithfulness and because of your obedience. In that envelope is $255 to bless you for your faithfulness, for your obedience, and to show you that God sees you and that he cares for you and that he loves you and that you never stop being generous. But because of your faithfulness, not only are we gonna bless you, because it didn't say blessings for me. What did it say? It said blessings for your family. That's for you. That just tells you how much we gave you. That's for you. But because on this envelope it says family blessings. So here, I want you to give that to mom and dad. Because of the faithfulness of a child, because of the faithfulness to sow a sacrificial seed, Lino and Ellie, I don't know what your situation is, but we want to sow $1,000 into your life right now from Legacy Church to us. And because of her faithfulness and her obedience to sacrifice and to sow generously. Now listen, you got to trust mom and dad, okay? Don't just go and blow it all on ice cream. She's wearing the perfect shirt today. It says legend. Nice. There you go. This is going to be a story that you'll tell your kids and your grandkids. You say, I'm just trying to make it through school. I'm reminded of an envelope that I was handed. on the Legacy Faith Offering Sunday from a woman I had never met before, first time I'd met her. And she had 2 boys. And I wanted to tell this story because this meant everything to me. Before she would even speak to me, she made me read this envelope. She said, "We had nothing when we came to church today, and now we have." And I didn't know the full story of what had happened, but someone in our church had already had their envelope prepared for that day, and they felt that morning as they woke up that they were supposed to take a larger chunk of cash out. And they were like, "Well, okay, I guess we're giving this in the Legacy Faith Offering today. I don't know, God, what you have in store." And when they walked in that door that day, God put this specific woman on their heart, and they said, God said to them, "I want you to give her the $1,000. And so that's where this envelope came from, because her teenage boy saw that God had blessed them through somebody, that God had blessed them. And he said, "Mom, I don't feel that it's right that we are to leave here without giving our tithe back to God." And so they took that $1,000, they took the $100, and they filled out this envelope. We came to church today with nothing, and now we have. Come on, this is what it's about, our obedience, our faithfulness. We got text messages later on that day, or later on that week, where she had went and taken, because let me tell you what I did. I took the $100 out and I gave it back to the boys. I said, don't ever stop giving. Don't ever stop being obedient. Don't ever doubt God. So they took that $1,000, and what did they do? Did they go and pay bills with it? I don't know exactly what they did with everything, but they took portions of that money and started to bless their neighbors in their apartment complex. And they said, God blessed us. So because God blessed us, he blessed you today. Come on, if we were to have that mindset, if we were to have that understanding, God blessed me. So if I'm blessed, you're blessed because you're in proximity of me. So that blessed me, but I began to read through other envelopes. And there was a seed here that was sown. It says that we can bless and be generous with as many people as we can. They listed a couple other things as well. And this was from the Owen family. And so Owen family, or Phil, if you want to open that, I know you got your hands full there. But Owen family, from our Legacy Church family, to you guys, we were sowing a $2,000 seed so that you can start. You can start. I don't know what your situation is. I know work is on and off and this and that, and it's inconsistent. But God wants you to know that he loves you, that he cares for you, that he sees you, and he wants your kids to know that when you're faithful and when you're obedient, that he will always take care of you. So church, can we give the Owen family a round of applause today? God did it. God did it. God did it. Jen, you know we love you. And we know life hasn't been easy. We know it's been difficult. But things are turning around. And you know that. And I feel like the girls know that. But Jen, from Legacy Church to you, I don't know what this season looks like for you guys. I don't know what you're walking through outside of the fact that it's just difficult. You feel like you can't get ahead. And you feel like, okay, we're gonna take it one day at a time. If you would open that up, because Jen and the girls as well, we want to sow a seed today into your life of $2,000 to help you in this next season, in this next month, whatever you're going through. But Legacy Church, come on, let's give it up. If you would, just stand on your feet. Come on. It's because of your faithfulness. It's because of your obedience. But it's because of his goodness. It's because of his goodness. God did it. God did it. God did it, and he will do it again and again and again. You say, well, what about me? Well, maybe your faith has gone from doubting faith to a next level of faith. You saw it in the room today. God did something tangible, he did something visible, and he did something personal. And this is only just the start. This is only just the beginning. This was a seed. We love you guys. Thank you so much. I know you thought you were here just to show your face, but it was intentional. And we love you all. Come on, why don't you give them another round of applause this morning? Love you all. Generosity affects people. If the band could come back. Romans 12:13, it says, contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. There's more things that we're gonna do with what's left over. We're gonna update our lobby out here. We're gonna update the lobbies of both of our locations, Kitchener and Hamilton. We're gonna update our kids' spaces, which desperately need some love. We're also gonna spend another $1,000 and buy gift cards for our Legacy Care Pantry, which goes to help people who are struggling to meet needs of buying groceries and those in our community that need help. We've also set aside a budget for outreach in our communities as well, in Kitchener, Waterloo area, and Hamilton as well. Now, if you've done the math at all today, and I know there's probably one that has pulled out the calendar or the calculator and said, okay, just want to make sure we're giving it all out. So of the $54,000 that came in between last week in Kitchener and today in Hamilton, we've given out a total of $67,755. Come on, church. That's above and beyond the Legacy Faith Offering. And I want you to know that it's just a start. It's just a seed. It's just the beginning. Because we're going to do this again. And I hope that your faith, maybe you were here today and maybe you say, I was like Thomas. I was doubting. I was in a season. I just didn't feel like, just felt like I was hitting a wall. Felt like I couldn't get above just a ceiling capping everything. And as I began to pray for these weeks, I just began to feel like God was saying that I want to release a breakthrough in finances. I want to release a breakthrough for the people of Legacy Church. When it comes to finances, I don't know what your situation is, and whether you're going through something, whether you're believing God to do something great. When it comes to your financial needs, maybe you've been believing God for a house. Maybe you've been believing God for a car that doesn't smell like fumes every time you get in it. I don't know what it is. But God loves you and he cares for you. Maybe if that's you today, and the band's gonna start singing in just a moment, but if that's you today, I wanna pray for you personally. So if you would, just come up to the altar. We're gonna pray as we worship again.
Well, we've come to the end of our service for today. We know that when we come to God, not perfectly or with our lives completely in order, but with open ears and an open heart, we can leave better than how we came. That is our God. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. If there's anyone still looking to complete their giving online, remember you can do that at lgcy.church/give. Okay, have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you back here again.